Hello guys, welcome to some of my gameplay. We'll be looking at it, seeing at the steps I do, the mistakes I make, the mistakes enemies make, and I'll try to give some commentary while having the gameplay run in the background. So we start off with the first engagement that I'm going to show off, which is an engagement that goes pretty poorly for my standards. It's an engagement where I'm rocking a captured uppercut and a bomb lance fed with harpoon and dragon's breath ammo. As you can see, I spot the first enemy, spot the second one. The second one sets off the chicken coop, which is always a bad thing when you hear enemies nearby. Try to avoid setting off sound traps. They can get you killed. In this case, you see me being stupid because I fumble my uppercut shot and don't use my bomb lance. My teammate Enyo is smart for once, which is a theme you'll not see that often, and uses the shotgun to take him out, sadly getting him killed in a process because there is a Lamut with slugs that was pushing us the whole time, which was overall not a bad idea by the enemy teammate, since he was forced down into the 1v1 and had the risk of me getting rezzed. He takes up my teammate, but it's too late. My bomb lance counters his attack. He did try to fight it off with a Lamut fanning, which is a solid strategy given my single shot nature. So, I mean, that overall wasn't a mistake. It was just maybe not the smartest to re-peek the same angle, / he should have just tried to perhaps get a different approach. The next engagement is from the same match. I obviously spot enemies. We have by now picked up the bounty token. My strategy with the bomb lance is usually to play pretty passively and switch to aggressiveness once I spot a chance. What that means is that, for example, let's just say an enemy goes down or an enemy lets his guard down, gets a bit too close. I have a good shot on him. He doesn't move too much, maybe even sits still. That's like the optimal moment to use the bomb lance's attack to try and take him out. And that's kind of what I was planning for, since obviously bomb lance in the open doesn't really work. I am severely outgunned there. And so we obviously go into the compound first, trying to see if we can get a flank going on them. And I was shortly thinking about opening that door to try and push out. But I hear the footsteps at a different location, more left to where we entered. So I decide not to, due to what I just said, regards to range, wanting to keep it short. I use Dark Sight, which is a tool that you should use in these kind of combat scenarios, because I mean it's given to you for a reason. I take the shot. I don't know if I hit his foot or something, but he doesn't go down. Here is a good play that turned mistake. The idea of hitting an enemy and then following it up is normally correct. I mean, the enemy here must have been super duper low, so the idea to finish the deal was good. The only thing I didn't account for is the fact that I didn't tell my friend Enyo to push, and he's also a bit on the slower side, so he may not indirectly see that not coming. This sadly resulted in us losing, since he chose to take the window, which is overall the worst part to push through, since windows slow you down and overall don't make it too pleasant. So you should always take a door. Next up is this engagement where we encounter this black coat. I'm running a bomb lance, this time in combination with a Schofield, since I'm not really an uppercut buyer. I take the pot shots, miss both of them, so we go inside the building. I just see another mistake here, which is Enyo going for that armored with a melee attack instead of using his throwing axe to attack. Avoid attacking barbed wire armors with melee weapons unless desperately needed, because they obviously cause bleeding and lower your health, which in a game like Hunt, where every bit of health counts, is very important. You also saw me there trying to get rid of the chicken coop, because the problem with the chicken coop is it makes a shit ton of noise and you want to avoid your hearing being lost, because Hunt doesn't have a radar, doesn't have a minimap system. Here you see me just sneaking out on that Hunter, and I think it's veteran variant, and taking him out. That's like a prime bomb lance play. You saw me crouching out there, knowing that he's close, just taking a pot shot and hitting. Enyo, on the other hand, wasn't very smart about it. He decided to push out another window while thinking that it was all clear, even though I called out a team earlier. And that's my advice. Call out every enemy and also listen to every teammate call out, except if you can confirm that it's false. For example, let's just say your teammate calls out a team that may be dead now. Okay, then, you know, ignore it. But normally listen to the stuff your teammates say, because as you see here, Enyo got instantly knocked out, and he also got covered by Concertina Wire. You can see here the enemies aren't playing it by their smartest. They have the guy with the Centennial, Cyclone, that missed me, but I, to be fair, also stood in the open. Teammate pushes in, big mistake, because as you can see, he was not prepared at all. And that's another one of my advice pieces. Do not push in if you're not prepared. If you don't know where the enemy is, especially in close quarters, do not push in. Even the most basic knife can kill you. And so just simply pushing in for the sake of pushing, / being overconfident in your weapon, and in this case he was using Crown and King with Flechette, which I still do not get, since, I mean, that said, I don't mean I don't enjoy having the Crown and King with Flechette on my team. I'm just trying to simply explain that this weapon is centered for more precise fire at a medium range. It's not a close range brawler anymore, since Flechette doesn't reliably one-shot. So if you're using these kinds of weapons, do not push in. Be careful. Try to find out where the enemy is, because you're indirectly giving away some of your advantage. In this case, I hear the enemy outside. I push outside to use the Crown and King. I try to play into, in this case, its advantage being the medium range. I tag the guy. He barely misses me. Good for me. I top off the reload, especially on spammy weapons like this with not a lot of ammo. Cyclone and Crown and King. Top up your ammo when needed, because like the problem is the times, especially while recording footage recently, that I've run out of ammo on my Spectre because I didn't top off in time. I can't count them on 2 hands. Anyway, get tagged here, I retreat. The most important part is do not keep peeking or re-peeking if you can't confidently take them out. Teammate of the enemy goes for a Necro. I let my guard down and reload, but the guy thinks that he's still using the Crown and King / is pretty awful at the bomb lance, and his teammate pushes in as well. They were trying to pincer me right here, but the problem is it was pretty badly executed, since I would have personally just waited for the choke bomb to wear off to get the res, and I would have tried to more swiftly push in. Overall, these enemies' mistakes so far were pushing in with a shotgun without being prepared, teammate being pretty backseat heavy, and of course, a seeming lack of communications. Good ideas, but bad executions were the Necro revive for a pincer push, and obviously trying to hit me and keep me suppressed with the Cyclone after I pushed him. Obviously, after every fight, try to loot resources, try to check if there's weapons you may need, / may like, may want, whatever. In this case, I went with the uppercut for the increased ranged firepower, and because I don't really play the uppercut that much, which isn't always a positive thing. If there's weapons that you rarely play and you know that you're not the best with, consider picking them up. Don't always do it, but consider it. The problem is, when you pick up a weapon that you're not familiar with, you may handicap yourself in your next engagement. And so, another piece of advice is, only pick up weapons that you're sure you can either learn something from because they're expensive and you don't use them often, or you're good with them. But even if you're not as good with the weapons, just try to play more passively then, because it can make a difference. You can still be good with a bad weapon if you just don't overextend or don't play overly aggressive. Anyway, we just looted all those hunters, which is, as I said, something I'd recommend. It refills your resources, gives you items, and makes sure that you can maybe pop in a good fight for the next engagement you have, which we did have in this match, and you'll see in a second. I obviously also suggest taking out AI around the compound if a fight is about to happen, / when you're approaching it, because unless there's an enemy actively listening to you, I'd suggest just taking out the AI because it will save you a lot of trouble. In this case, I had a problem that I hope you guys never have to deal with. Enyo crashed, meaning I was on my own with no ability to self-revive against one of the most hated compounds in my opinion. because I just do not like this compound. It's very annoying to push into. But when you're inside, it does work pretty well. But as I said, pushing inside is the hard part. In this case, I mostly crouch around to try and listen to the footsteps around me. And I decide to fall back. The main reason I decide to do that is because I know that they will now have dark sight and that I have no match for them. So I fall back to try and get more into the sweet spot of a more distant fight, / potentially letting them get away, but me keeping the loot I gain from this match. Which is something I'd strongly suggest you do as well. If things just simply aren't looking up, feel free to stand back. Sometimes it's better to save a hunter with some smaller loot than to lose everything. Coming back to taking out AI like hellhounds, hives, or armors, as well as immolators obviously, should always be taken out before you get into a fight. Because the problem is, if you get hit by a gun, let's say like a Mosin or a Verli, and you decide to fall back into that vision of the AI, and for example a hive sends her swarm after you while you have 20 HP, she will just absolutely remove you. Anyway, coming back to combat, in this case the enemy made a mistake of taking a most likely poorly planned shot, missing me, and I retaliate fire with the uppercut, which is not normally something I'd suggest. Pistols don't really have the best range engagement. In this case I was just fortunate enough that I was just good enough of a range to engage him, and boom, pop goes the second head. In this case, the mistakes were pretty limited. I mean, the other guy tried to take me out at a distance, but I feel like he should have just tried to run instead, because I wasn't actively engaging them yet. And you may say, oh yeah, but doesn't that contradict itself? Well, the problem is, sometimes the lack of active engagement is kind of what should prompt you to try and get a better position first rather than standing half in the open. I also took out his teammate because he peeked a window. Peeking windows isn't a bad thing, but I'd honestly not do it while crouching, especially if you don't know where the enemy truly is yourself. Try to do it as a jump peek or perhaps a normal walking peek by walking left, right, to ensure that you simply don't die because of the lack of knowledge. And another solid piece of advice is just simply, if you do not know where the enemy is that's shooting at you, do not stand still, do not fire back. Try to get to the nearest piece of cover if possible, and from there on plan out. Try to memorize where did the shot come from, where did it hit you from, where could the enemy be, what compounds are near, what cover is near, are there maybe typical spots, and those are just the things that you should keep in mind. This was a pretty basic analysis, but I hope you still enjoyed it. I will try to make a guide on combat. It was just that I already had prepped this video and thought, oh, maybe I should make a combat checklist or combat guide first. But I decided to finish this project, and I hope that it was still somewhat helpful, that I explained some mistakes. This wasn't as in-depth as it could have been, but right now making in-depth videos, except maybe like specialized guides like combat or stuff like that, is a bit difficult for me, as I've explained in my plenty statements. I hope that it still helps you, I hope that you still learned something, and I hope that I can bring you a combat guide soon enough. Anyway, happy hunting in the bayou, and don't get caught yourself. Trottle out. One was even a wall bank. I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got $20 in my pocket. Didn't you say you want to pick up the Cine?
I picked it up. I'm going back to the...
Oh, you little slut. You bought fucking Gunrunner.
Yeah.